Hello, my name is McKenna Granzo, and I will be talking to you about Stalingrad. Now, Stalingrad is a major manufacturing city located along the Volga River in the southwestern region of the Soviet Union. Now, Stalingrad was the cornerstone of the northern flank. The northern flank also consisted of Cossacus. Cossacus is located in the mountain area, which is particularly known for its oil fields. So Cossacus is located to the south, yep. Now, Directive number 41 on April 5th, 1942. Hitler planned to eliminate Soviet forces in the south, securing the region's economic resources by moving German troops towards Moscow and south to conquer Cossacus. By June 28, 1942, operations began with significant German victories when invading the Soviet Union. Now, Stalingrad lasted from July 17, 1942 to February 2nd, 1943, lasting 5 months, 3 weeks, and 1 day. Here we have our leaders for the Germans. July 9th, Hitler called for the troops to turn and take both Stalingrad and Cossacus. Now, Stalingrad was particularly a high point of morale because, well, its name is derived from Stalin himself, making it a key point for Hitler to hit. So the southern troops were split into two groups, Group A and Group B. Now, Group A was under Field Marshal Wilhelm List. This is him right here. And then we have, originally Group B was overseen by Bach, later to be replaced by Field Marshal Maximilian von Weissels. I apologize, said that wrong. All right. And then we have our Soviet leaders. Now, Vasily Zhukov, this is him on our right. He oversaw the 62nd Army that was located in Stalingrad itself. And then General Georgy Zhukov, he oversaw the complete southern front. Now we're going to go into our technological advances. First off, we're going to start off with the Rattenkrieg, which translates to Rat Wars. This was a nickname given to the Soviets by the Germans. It was due to this nickname that it was sort of a reputation that the Soviets had gotten in the Battle of Stalingrad, where Soviet troops would move around 8 to 10 men in small groups, would go in, attack quickly, effectively, get it done, and then they would head back out to the Soviet side. Now, generally they were covered by snipers. Snipers were very prominent in both the German and the Russian sides, due to the fact that the rubble made perfect hidey holes for them. Now we have the Russian gliders, a Russian image here on the lower right-hand corner. Now, Russian gliders were primarily used at night. Since they were silent fires, they would be used to drop bombs on unsuspecting German troops, due to the fact that they didn't make any noise and they were basically, you couldn't see them, you couldn't hear them, you didn't know they were there. They were perfect for dropping bombs. And now we have the German curved machine gun. All right, a breakdown of this firearm. As you can see, it has an attachment to the muzzle. Now, this was used to, when they would fire, it was used to fire around buildings over different debris and whatnot. So due to the curvature, you could get around 300 rounds till it started breaking down, due to the fact that bullets aren't meant to be curved. Well, this also, due to the velocity of the bullet, caused bullets to fragment. Now, these fragmented bullets resembled something like a shotgun, where it would spray and it would hit in a larger target. So to stop with the fragmentation of bullets, they would drill holes in the barrel of the gun, which softened up the recoil as well as the velocity of the bullets. One of the main points that they used to see around buildings and debris was a mirror that is located here. Now, this mirror had a shield on it that kept debris and water, and just it kept them mostly clean. They could be switched to look over. Say I want to look up and over, I can maneuver this way over this way. It was used for anywhere you didn't want to stick your head out. And then also Stalingrad manufactured tanks, particularly the T-34 as well as the T-60. Now, these were sent directly off the assembly line. Most of the times they were not painted, nor did they have gun sights, which made them very easy to pick out. Yeah. All right, we'll be moving on to the battle itself. So as I said, June 28th, 1942, operations began with German victories, very heavy German victories in the Soviet Union. So as I said, Group A continued down to Koskas, whereas Group B continued to Stalingrad. This particular so as I said, Group B was Bach was the original leader, which was replaced by Field Marshal Maximilian. The divisions were stretched to their limits. Also, they were stretched to their logistics limits. So, resulting in a gap between Force A, which would be down here, and then Group B, that is going this way, which allowed Soviet troops to slip between the gaps and retreat towards the east into Stalingrad. Now, Group E was extremely slow getting to Stalingrad. The movement into Stalingrad was called Operation Versarich. So Hitler made another change to his plans. So he had General Hermann Haas of the 4th Panzer Army that was originally belonging to Group B, had him move into Group A to support the fighting in Koskas. Now, Stalin's response to the onslaught into Stalingrad was the Stalingrad Front. This was an offensive with the 62nd and the 64th Army, 62nd located here and the 64th located here. Under Marshal Serezon Dendrovsky, which he was in charge of the 8th Air Army and the 21st Army. Now, this Soviet response to Bach, the original group leader for B, was a withdrawal to avoid massive encirclement by the Germans and to lower amount of troop losses. Now, this brought about on July 28th, Stalin issued order number 227 that the defenders were not allowed to take one step back. Now, this entailed that the Soviet troops were not allowed to retreat out of Stalingrad. Also, Stalin refused to have civilians evacuated due to the fact that he thought if the soldiers had civilians to protect, they were going to fight harder, making it harder for Stalingrad to fall. Now, on August 23rd, Germans spearheaded, penetrated the city's northern suburbs, which is going to be right here, resulting in Luftwaffe bombing campaigns, destroying most of the city. The Soviet 62nd Army pushed back to Stalingrad proper under the command of General Vasily Zhukov. So in August, Hitler ordered Hoth was the Panzer division that broke from B heading down towards A, to head back up from the south to go towards Stalingrad and insist the onslaught of the spearhead. In the end of August, the 4th Army northward advanced against the city, converging with the 6th Army eastward advance under General Friedrich Paulus. Paulus was in charge of the spearhead here. Now, German onslaught of Stalingrad ranged from 400 miles north to the Stalingrad, and then 400 miles south to the Terek River. By mid-September, Soviet forces in Stalingrad occupying a 9-mile strip of the city. This is going to be right here. Along the Volga, the strip was about 2 to 3 miles wide. So sitting right here. Soviet supply troops by barges and boats across the Volga from the outer banks. So they're going to be coming in this way along the Volga. So Stalingrad was one of the most concentrated fighting of the war, with streets, blocks, and individual buildings that were fought by small units of troops and other, as they often changed hands. So to run that down as, say this street belonged to Germans one day, next day it could be held by the Russians, next day it could be held by the Germans. It was a lot of back and forth fighting, and it was very, very bloody. It was not a good place to be. So one of the critical moments was in October 14th. Soviet transports were fired upon by German machine gun fire. This would have been somewhere in here along the Volgas as they were moving in cargo. Now the Volgas is going to freeze over later in the year, in the winter, making transport far easier for the Soviet Union. So as the winter set in, Germans began to have heavy losses, and as well as experiencing fatigue, and as the winter approaches. The turning point of the war. So Soviets' counteroffensive called Operation Uranus was in November 19th through the 23rd, planned by Georgy Khodvanskevich. He was our main leader here, General Georgy Khodvanskevich, as well as alongside Alexander Milkovich Valansky and Nikolai Nikolovansky-Zovich Venarov. I apologize, I have slaughtered these names, which resulted in 2 spearheads heading towards the flanks of the German onslaught. Now, the first one headed north about 50 miles and then cut off the flanks on the left of the spearhead, whereas the secondary division headed south 50 miles and cut him off on the right side of the spearhead. Now, this caught the Germans completely off guard because they were expecting a head-on attack, not an attack where they would circle around. Now, the flanks were weakly defended and extremely undermanned, as well as undersupplied. The flanks generally consisted of Romanians, Hungarians, and Italian troops, which were very poorly trained, and they also had extremely low morale, making them very easy targets. By November 23rd, the 2 forces pushed through the flanks and met back up in Kalach. Kalach is located here, so 50 miles out, they came back and in, and then 50 miles south, they came out and back in. So Kalach is located 60 miles from Stalingrad. So German high command tried to persuade Hitler to command Paulus and his forces to break through Stalin's forces and rejoin the forces west of the city. So here's where they were contained. This is Kalach. This is where they were being circled. So basically they were having them try to break through this way, which was the weaker point due to the fact that they had to go out and around. So overall, Hitler ordered Paulus to stand and fight. As the Sixth Army grew weaker, Hitler had problems with the food and the medical supplies dwindling. Hitler declared that the Sixth Army would be supplied by the Luftwaffe, they were only able to supply a fraction of what they needed. So as winter set in, the German soldiers were starved. They didn't have enough medical supplies. They weren't warm enough. They didn't have the equipment they needed for winter specifically. So Hitler's plan to have Pollock stay there completely doomed his forces. So this led into Operation Saturn. Operation Saturn was on December 16th. So this resulted in the Soviets shrinking the circle around the Germans. So this was the final push towards German eradication in Stalingrad. Now, this is where the Volga River came in perfectly. The Volga River was the main point of transport for them for their final push at removing them. Ultimately, Hitler forced Paulus troops to fight to the death. On January 31st, 1943, Paulus surrendered, followed by February 2nd, the rest of the army surrendered, resulting in 91,000 frozen, starving men, including the 6th and the 4th Army, to the Soviets. All right, our casualties. The Soviets recovered around 250,000 German and Romanian corpses, with a total Axis casualties counting 800,000 dead, missing, or captured. The Germans, Romanians, Italians, and Hungarians are what consisted of the Axis casualties. Of the 91,000 that surrendered, 5,000 to around 6,000 were returned home, and that was around 1945, so at the end of the war. The rest died in POW camps as well as work camps. The Russian casualties were, historians estimated, at around 1,100,000 Red Army dead, wounded, missing, or captured in the Battle of Stalingrad, with an estimation of 40,000 civilians dead. So basically, this was one of the horrendous battles of Germany and Russian fighting. Ultimately, it was extremely bloody, close quarters. It was a lot of blitzkrieg where it was going quick, hit, get back out, and see if you can make it out alive. It was they didn't have enough equipment. The Germans did not have enough equipment. The Russians did not have enough equipment, though they were better equipped for the cold itself. So the aftermath of 1945, Stalingrad was officially proclaimed a hero city of the Soviet Union. In 1959, construction of an enormous memorial dedicated to the heroes of Stalingrad. The memorial finished in 1967. The state called it the Motherland Calls. So the statue stands at 52 meters tall, located on Magazur Hill. It is also the tomb of Marshal Zhukov, who died 40 years after the Battle of Stalingrad. All right, thank you.